Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Thrive Forward podcast. Today, on this episode, I'm rounding out our series on caregiving and the Alzheimer's journey. And I thought no better way than to talk about some things that we can do in our lives today. So many times I hear individuals ask me, Shannon, what can I do to plan if I become a caregiver or if I need care myself? This is a huge topic right now for clients that I speak with or just individuals in the community who have questions. I think there is a lot we can do right now, not even just from a financial standpoint, but from an overall health standpoint. Now, I'll caveat this with I am not a mental health professional or a doctor. So the things that I'm going to talk about are coming from just real life experiences, either for myself or for clients that I have worked with. And again, these are always things that can spark conversation, but aren't necessarily things that I'm telling you should personally implement into your life, but options to be able to explore. That being said, we're going to talk about mental health and physical health, emotional health, and our general well-being during today's episode, and specifically how those relate directly back to your caregiving experience. So let's roll into it. Hello, friends. So as we get started today, I wanted to talk a little bit about your overall environment that you create, and that environment being your physical well-being, your mental well-being, emotional well-being, and relationships that tie into that full well-being. So I'm going to break down each one of those areas for you today and talk a little bit more about what are the things that you can do today to overall help your well-being in order to hopefully live a healthy, both physical, mental, and emotional future. Now, again, as I disclosed at the beginning, I am not a mental health or physical health professional. I am not a doctor. These are all conversations I've had with clients or myself and my own personal learnings. So let's caveat there. This might just be an opportunity for start the conversation with yourself or your healthcare professionals and mental health professionals as you continue on this journey of living the life you are so worthy of being able to live. So let's talk first about our physical health. So when my dad was diagnosed with early onset dementia, this was something that I wanted to make sure from a physical well-being that I was in tip-top shape. Like selfishly, in all honesty, I was like, what is it that I need to do so that I don't end up in this same situation? And I think so many individuals and children of those who have Alzheimer's find themselves thinking that, whether we admit it out loud or not, it is this battle of, well, I hope it's not me. How do I make sure that this doesn't happen to me? So I started with my physical well-being because I was already on a journey of my mental well-being that I'll share with you a little bit later. But physical well-being, we start to talk about like, what is it that we put in our body? What is it that we do to move our bodies and take care of our bodies? But one, I don't think that we always think about, it's what do we put on our bodies as well? And I don't just mean clothing. So let's first talk about the elements of what we put in our body. So I've always been a veggie lover. It is something that my parents never really had to bark at me about eating vegetables. I love them. What you name them, I love them. Brussels sprouts, yes, especially a little bacon and honey on them. They're fantastic. That being said, I started to look at what are the chemicals that are related to some of these things that I'm putting inside my body and I'm digesting and I'm letting them flow through my blood system. I'm passing them through my digestive system, all of this stuff. I have this great vessel. You, my friend, have this great vessel. What is it that we are putting into our bodies to make sure that we're actually providing it the nutrients that we needed? So I started looking into, okay, what's the difference between organic and conventional vegetables? What are the chemicals that are being sprayed on it to make this broccoli so much bigger, these tomatoes so much bigger than the ones that are farm grown or organic? That being said, I know that food is not always accessible in true organic fabulous fashion to everyone. If you're like, what do you mean, Shannon? Everybody should have access to food. Well, yeah, duh, of course they should, but there are definite communities that are suffering from access to healthy foods. We call them food deserts. I've previously talked about this on the podcast, but if it's something that you really want to understand a little bit more, simply Google food deserts and you'll be able to find out even more. But it's communities that don't have access to fresh vegetables, organic foods, anything that could be at an affordable price point. Instead, in these places, we have manufactured, processed, fast food as the main staples of accessibility to, we'll call quote unquote nutrition. And then we look at those communities and the elements of physical well-being, mental well-being, all of the things that we put in our body are fuel. So what is the fuel that we're putting in? Is it good fuel, or is it fuel that's going to burn us out eventually, whether it be currently with our mental health and physical health and energy levels, or is it our later in life and the impacts that have on us later in life with the things that we might have? You know, what is it that we've put in our body and the chemicals that we have? Is that play a part into any long-term disease that we might be diagnosed with later on in life? So I started to do more research about what that looks like. Now, pump your brakes. I'm not perfect. Yes, I will pick up a bag of Cheetos and indulge in them. Yes, I have adult beverages. Yes, I love me some donuts and ice cream, all the things in moderation. So I kind of function in this like 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the time, I'm going to be really good with what I fuel my body with. And emotionally and mentally, I'm not going to deprive myself from having a bowl of chocolate ice cream or looking at what it is that I reward myself with from an aspect of what am I putting in my body. And reward might not be the right term. Some dietitian or, food wellness professional might say, Shannon, don't reward yourself with food. But come on, like every once in a while, I really love a big bowl of chocolate ice cream with like sprinkles on it and some whipped cream. That being said, it's literally not what I'm doing every single night of my life, right? I am trying to look at the things that are on my plate, not only for me, but for my children, and what is the fuel that we are putting in our bodies. Then I think it's how are we physically treating our bodies? What is our relationship with our body? How are we making sure that we're strong in all different aspects of the way? I'm not saying you gotta be ripped and have a six-pack to be healthy. That is a fallacy. Excuse me. Good Lord. Can't speak today. That's a fallacy. You don't have to have a six-pack, but I do think, especially for women, we have to think about our physical well-being. Maybe it's yoga, maybe it's Pilates, maybe it's walking every single day. You don't have to be a marathon runner or a CrossFitter to be healthy. In fact, you don't have to be a small size to be healthy. You can be strong in your own way, but muscle mass and muscle health is really important as we age, especially for women, because we are more susceptible to falls and bones breaking because we're not taking care of that physical health of ourselves. Kind of think of your muscles as guards for your bones. And if we're not taking care of our bones and we're not taking care of our muscles, we will be more susceptible to breaking and lack of bone health in the future. Not that that necessarily plays any part in the Alzheimer's journey, but it does in our own physical and aging journey as well. So for one thing for me is that physical working out and moving our bodies also played a part in my mental health journey, which I'll talk about a little bit later as well. But it hasn't always been that I loved lifting weights. I have been an athlete for most of my life. I'm not going to say that I am anywhere near a good athlete, but I've always participated and loved moving my body and trying new things and being able to develop those aspects of things. So I've done cycling, Pilates, bar classes, yoga, weightlifting. I've done lots of different things to be able to treat my body in a way that makes sense. And pairing that also with how am I taking care of myself from a physical element. Am I going to the doctor? Am I doing things that are preventative care? So for me, a lot of the preventative care that I do, I recently introduced acupuncture and chiropractic. I've actually done chiropractic services for many, many years of my life. And, physical therapy and being able to stretch and take care of, again, this vessel we were graced with giving and given to ourselves is we've got to take care of this thing, right? And love on it, make sure that it feels good. I want to finish with the physical part of it because most of the time we don't think about this. We talk about nutrition, we talk about working out, but we don't talk about like what do we put on our bodies. And our skin is the largest organ that we have, and it seeps in all of the stuff that we put on it, from lotions to makeups to, all of those different things. And as women, we have been susceptible and advertised to all the things that we need to put on our bodies to make it better. And I am saying that to you with a full red of maroon lipstick to match my maroon and gold hair extensions that I am rocking because it is game day for the Gophers. That being said, I love a good lipstick. There's nothing wrong with that. I love painting my nails. I like doing those things. It's actually my artistic expression because I am raised by an artist. I am the daughter of two artists. So it is something important to me to be able to express, but express in a way that's not adding chemicals and poisons, frankly, to my body. So I started to do more research on, okay, what is the makeup? What is the lotion? What is the soap? What is the shampoo? What are the things that I can use in my body that are going to be healthy? So for instance, if we talk about nails, I go to a natural nail salon where they do not use chemicals to remove the nails, where they do not use nail polish that has chemicals on it. That is simply the fact. That's how I get the sparkly fun nails, is I make that exception. I actually don't pay any more money than I would going to a regular nail salon, and I have that accessibility. I will tell you, it is hard as heck to get into the salon because they are busy and they are in high demand. So you just want to make sure that you're looking for those types of salons and ask the question, what type of chemicals do you use? Can you help me understand what the ingredients are? I have an app on my phone. It's called Think Dirty. Don't go there. It's not actually dirty. Like, it is just telling you what the chemicals are that are associated with the things that you're putting on your body. What they tell you is you probably want to keep it a 5 and under, and preferably a 4 and under. So they have a rating system, 0 to 10, and then we'll tell you what is what is actually in there. And a lot of times, like food has this ingredient that is called natural flavoring, and cosmetics and things that we put on our body have this ingredient called fragrance. You don't have to disclose what goes into those things. You can put whatever the heck you want to. You can put formaldehyde in there. You can do all different types of things that really do affect our bodies, but don't have to disclose it. So fragrance is something that I stay away from. You can still smell pretty, my friends. I use essential oils or actual natural scents that say like orange peel or lavender or different things like that still make you smell good. I would say the other main piece that I started to read on was deodorant. And I'm a sweaty individual. And I tell you, if you're going to work out and have physical health, you got to have a good deodorant. And I started using natural deodorants. I had to go through quite a few before I got one that I really liked, that wasn't super oily or didn't feel like it was heavy on my skin. Because I like more of a powdery, fresh feel. That's just what the pit's like, my friends. But in regular deodorants, and if you think about seeping into your pores in this area of your body that's the most sweaty. Again, I'm not a doctor, but you guys, the chemicals are seeping into your body. If you have aluminum and metals in there, that's a direct link to dementia. And there are plenty of articles and resources out there that say those link to each other. So for me, I was like, ooh, well, I absolutely don't want that absorbed in my body. And you aren't going to question it most of the time, because as a consumer, we go into the store and we think, gosh, everything on the shelf, from food to cosmetics to personal care items, we think they're healthy for us, to the things that we use in our environment, in our household. And we haven't even talked about that, but the things we clean our surfaces with, the things we wash our clothes with, all of those things play a big part. And we're a trustworthy society that says, you know what, I'm going to walk into the store, I'm going to pick an item, and it's not going to kill me. The reality is, I can't say that it'll kill you, but is it helping to prolong your life, or is it shortening the actual overall health that you have? You make that decision, my friends. And I think it's important for us to start to look at what are those things that we do and utilize, from what goes in our body to what goes on our body. So I utilize that app. I scan it. Sometimes it takes me a little bit longer. Now I've found the brands that I really like to use in my household, from a cleaning supply standpoint, from a cosmetic standpoint, from a personal care standpoint, even to what I use with my kids. What goes on their bodies and what goes in their bodies is just as important to me. And I think we need to talk about, like, again, how do we use our bodies, and we transition into how do we use our minds. So just to wrap up that physical aspect, what do you put in your body? What do you put in your body? What do you put on your body? And how do you treat your body? So being able to look at all of those aspects from a physical standpoint. Transitioning into another big part of our bodies, our brain. And this is the part that is affected the most when it comes to dementia and Alzheimer's, because it is a disease of the brain. So if you have a brain, you are susceptible to Alzheimer's and dementia, right? Because it doesn't discriminate what your brain looks like. It's just something that could happen to you. So that being said, we start to look at what is it that we're doing from a mental health standpoint. So I look at it from a couple of different ways. What is the environment, again, that we're creating? What is the community that we are providing for support? And how are we challenging our brains? So I'm going to start with the first part here. Mental health in a go society is sometimes hard to control and hard to manage that well-being. Challenging our brain and keeping our brain healthy is something that's important. Just like exercising your body, exercising your brain. I remember a couple of years ago when Sudoku puzzles, I think it's how you say it, Sudoku puzzles were really big. My girls are loving playing with the Rubik's Cube right now, although there's an app that shows them how to solve it. I'm not really sure that actually exercises their brain, but maybe in a different way than I am accustomed to, right? It's correlating to things, following directions, and then being able to do it yourself. But there are a lot of studies out there that show that when you have a challenged brain, and not stressful brain, but when you're using your brain in a capacity that challenges it and allows it to grow, thinking about aspects. A lot of times people say, well, Shannon, how did you get to a point where you provide advice to people about money? Friends, I let my brain grow and learn to be able to provide that advice. Like, what are we doing to challenge our brain? It is the largest muscle that we have in our body, and it has the ability to do so many things if we challenge it in the right way. That being said, by no means am I encouraging you to go. In fact, if we didn't learn anything from 2020, it is so greatly important for us to be able to slow down. Trust me, I'm still trying to figure some of that out, my friends, because I am a go person, and slowing down is probably the thing that I have the biggest struggle with, and not overcommitting myself to doing all of the things in the world. So being able to find that balance. As I mentioned earlier in the conversation, I spent a lot of time in my early life with mental health and being able to have a healthy mental relationship and tying my mental and emotional together. I come from a family that has a long line of struggling with mental health, whether it be addiction, schizophrenia, whatever it might be. My dad's biological mother had schizophrenia. And so it was important to me to be able to say, okay, how do I take care of this lovely brain of mine to make sure that I curb anything that might be in that situation? How do I mentally take myself into a place of health for my brain? And so I think a lot of that was being able to meet with a therapist, talk about things, being able to emotionally digest the experiences of my life. And a lot of times I was asked in my professional life, like, Shannon, why do you go to therapy? You seem to have it all together. I have it all together because I go to therapy, right? Like that's the aspect of being able to continue those relationships with my therapist of a long time, where we continue to have relationships and meet on a regular basis so that I digest. And a lot of times it just feels like dumping, and being able to take whatever that is out of my body and putting it and out of my brain and putting it in a way that helps me process that in a healthy way. So I look at your mental capacity as what is it that you are creating from a professional standpoint, for professional help, a therapist, a coach, whatever that might look like. A therapist and coach differ because a therapist is going to deal with your past, whereas the coach is going to deal with your present and future. How do you transcend out of that space and into the space that you want to be living in and thriving in? So how do you create that professional experience? Then how do you create that community? So who are the people around you that you need to be able to lean into? Who are your support systems? How do you have that available to you to lean into? That's going to be really important if and whenever you start your caregiver journey, whether it be motherhood or caring for somebody that is struggling with an illness or potentially battling a life-altering illness. Having help and a community is something that's really important. It might not be your family, it might be your friends, it might be your neighbors, but how do you lean into that? And how do you become okay with asking for help? It was a journey I had to experience becoming a mother. I was a very independent individual that never asked for help. And then I became a mom and I was like, please help me. So now I've gotten better at asking for help. I wouldn't say that I'm great at it, but I've gotten better at asking for help. So I think a lot of that plays into our mental well-being, right? So who are the professional resources we're utilizing? What is our support system? And how are we challenging our brain? I think a lot of that will transition into our emotional well-being, right? Our mental and emotional coincide very closely together. How do we deal with some of those emotional aspects of anxiety or depression or worry, anything that might stem from some of those mental health aspects of things transition into our emotional well-being? I also think about it in terms of how we talk to ourselves. What is that conversation that you have with yourself? Have you ever said something to yourself that you would never say to somebody else? And is that because of the relationships that you have had or things that people have said to you? So going back into that environment aspect of things, how are you looking at your total environment? What are the words that are being said to feed you? Much like the fuel that we put into our body for our physical well-being, but what is it, the words and the environment that you're in that are fueling your body from an emotional standpoint that is healthy? Are the words positive? Is the environment positive? Is it negative? Are you always stressed? Are you always pushing the limits of what it is that you can do so you're not centering yourself? Recently, from a physical and mental health well-being aspect of things, I started going to an acupuncturist. And it was something I've always wanted to try in conjunction with the chiropractic services that I do as that kind of preventative care, right? I think we want to triage, but what do we do before we get to the triage? And I think that's what these conversations today are about, is instead of triage, what is it that we do to really help ourselves before we get to that point? And acupuncture has been something that has really been an emotional release for me, helping not only my physical well-being, but also my emotional and mental health and being able to release. Sometimes I tell my acupuncturist, I say, can I just stay here? It's so peaceful. And being able to allow myself the elements of meditation as a part of that mental and well-being. And I had JC Lippold on an episode in January of 2021, and we talked about meditation. He's a meditation and wellness teacher. And he was somebody that always advocated, Shannon, you don't have to sit still to be in a meditative state or to meditate. I think there are definitions of, we see somebody sitting cross-legged with their hands and their fingers touching each other with their eyes closed and never moving. Well, the reality is not all of us can get to that point right away, and we have to start somewhere. Just like teaching and training our brains, it's allowing us to have control over our emotions and teaching and training ourselves to relax. We live in a go, 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 achieve, 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 get to this, keep up with the Joneses type of society. How do we recenter ourselves to know that we are okay where we are right now? And I think a lot of that has to do with us being present and our emotional well-being. And then that transcends into this kind of overarching and wrapping relationship with ourselves and relationship with the loved ones around us. And those relationships can either be for us or not for us. We might need boundaries. They might play into our mental health and wellness, or both positively and negatively, right? And I think every journey is different, and that definitely plays into what that future caregiving relationship might look like. If we had a toxic relationship with someone we love and then we have to be their caregiver, how do we set boundaries? How do we plan for someone else to be able to assist us with that care? Maybe it's a professional that we hired to do that because it's not a healthy relationship for us to be in that space. So I think that that's important for us to evaluate and think about now. What are those relationships that support me? Much like we talked about when it comes to mental health, what are the relationships that serve me and what are the relationships that don't serve me that maybe I need to, I don't always love to say cut out, but maybe I need to put up some very strict boundaries around, right? And sometimes that looks very differently. My relationship with my father and my parents might look differently than somebody else's. And our relationship by all means was not perfect. And there are definite boundaries that both parties have to set up in being able to serve each other. So in kind of a big bow on this episode, I would love for you to start to think about and evaluate for yourself. Where are you in your physical well-being? Where are you in your mental, emotional well-being? Where are your relationships? What does that overall well-being look like for you? What are the areas that you wish you could improve and make stronger? And where can you seek some professional advice for those areas to help you get to a place where you might be stronger and can feel more grounded? I say this because I know that we can be physically so healthy, but emotionally we could be suffering. And emotionally we could be so healthy, and physically we could be not where we want to be from a health standpoint. And again, like I said earlier, it is not about being, a tiny size with the ripped abs and all of those things. That's not what I'm advocating in the least bit. It is about how do we find our holistic, comprehensive well-being that affects our whole life in a positive standpoint. So, being able to go through those areas that we talked about today and assess for yourself, what is it that I need to do, that I need to make some improvements on? And if any of those areas are affecting your financial life, because I talk about this all the time, everything is intertwined. We would love to be able to help walk that journey with you by scheduling a wealth assessment with us. And I want you to really sit back and think to yourself, I am worthy of this. I am worthy of being able to explore what it is that my mind, body, and soul need. So my friend, as I always sign off these podcasts, but especially today, please remember you are worthy of wealth. Wealth doesn't just mean the dollar amount in your bank account or in your investments. It means the vessel that you are caring for, you are worthy to care for.